Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nerds of the Roundtable. This is part dos.
That is 2 for English language speakers.
Yeah, north of the wall.
Okay.
Politics! Damn it.
North of the wall. Keeping those White Walkers out. Game of Thrones reference, which you are not familiar with. You terrible person. I just discredited you to all of our user base. Eric doesn't watch Game of Thrones.
Silence.
Yeah, hate mail. Hate mail is coming in right
Insert crickets there. So,
hey, there's outrage right now, all right? There's going to be comments on this video. What?
there are nerds.
Our fearless leader doesn't watch Game of Thrones?
No.
What is wrong
I have
with you,
class.
man?
Vigor.
Oh, please. Well, you did watch Westworld, right?
No, I haven't. I was catching up on Top Gear. And by Top Gear, I mean Grand Tour.
Grand Tour? Bro, come on. Come on. Can you believe this guy?
I can. Well, and we were...
No Westworld, no Game of
No.
Thrones.
Now, when Westworld came
Please.
out, I was watching Stranger Things.
Okay.
That I took priority
All right.
by a larger margin.
But Netflix
Super good.
doesn't hit HBO levels. I'm sorry.
No, and I don't have HBO either.
You don't want to say that out loud. You don't want to let
Anyways.
them know. There's some things you got to keep to yourself. We have an image to uphold here, Eric. We do.
Since when?
Since always. Since the name of the podcast. There's a reputation quality behind this.
It may not be a good reputation, but we
Nah.
got something.
Yeah, I have HBO Go because I'm proper adult.
You know what?
Please.
Come over there.
Please. Come on, son.
All right. Before, we don't need to be starting a debate this early in the podcast. So, per side A of this podcast. So, I guess maybe I should explain that joke. Side A versus side B.
Oh, like a cassette that you would flip.
Yeah, or a record. There's a side A and side B.
To a record where you would flip it over.
Uh-huh.
And you'd then have a separate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you couldn't fit all the tracks on side A.
Well, it's true. Same thing with a cassette
Exactly.
tape. You would flip the cassette tape.
Yeah, but you lost, like, bit depth and stuff whenever you did that.
Yeah.
Anyways, whole nother.
Okay, folks, exciting podcast. Let's talk about bit depth on cassette tapes. Yeah.
Actually, it's not that good.
Exciting.
It's like 5 bits, something like that.
Don't.
I'll have to look back at my notes.
No, you don't have notes.
I do.
You don't have notes about cassette tape audio bit depth.
I do. Because it was one of the first podcasts we
Stop.
did.
No, you don't. Don't admit that.
right.
It's okay. I used to know exact resolutions for VHS versus Betamax.
Oh, that's
I
true.
don't think I can recall that now. It's around like 320 by 240 for VHS. And I think Betamax is more like 428 by like 210, something like that.
Yeah.
If those were accurate, I would blow my own mind right now. There's no reason I should know anything close to that. It is the year 2017. VHS came out in 1954. I know that fact. I shouldn't.
No, I've just got to look.
So side A, we're just recently summing things up. New things in the news.
Yeah.
AMD, Vega 10, high bandwidth memory 2, 512 gigabit per second. Memory bandwidth is going to be 8 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory 2, which is better than the GDDR5X that is in all the NVIDIA architectures. Next NVIDIA architecture will move to high bandwidth memory 2, but AMD will beat them there, just like they did with the first generation high bandwidth memory.
Yeah.
Boom, let me drop this mic.
So there's some new stuff from Razer, new camera that we're going to be reviewing.
From Logitech, look forward to that one, the
Oh, it's gonna be
Brio
so good.
4K. That'll be cool. That'll be a good comparison video, like raw footage versus this footage, raw audio versus this audio.
Damn right.
It'll be good.
Oh,
It'll be
super good.
Also, a $200 webcam versus a like $70 webcam to see if the price increase is that dramatic of an increase in quality.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Amazon price on this thing, real quick?
Probably
It's
200.
probably still 200. I doubt it's discounted at all.
Yeah,
yet.
I doubt it. I will say I can't wait to see what our dealer
Yeah,
cost.
$199. See, you look right below that. The 930E, which is their previous flagship, $85 versus $200 for the Brio. The newer released 922, so that's more targeted towards like the Twitch audience. It's priced at $82.99. Even the 922, which was the previous flagship before the 930, is priced at $100. They're all free one-day shipping on Amazon. Amazon.com. Prime memberships, great value.
That they are. Not gonna lie.
But yeah, it's still at $199. So this is double the price of their other competing models. So it's gonna be interesting to see at the comparable price if the performance is dramatically better. It could be valued. We'll see. We'll see.
So yeah, see that review or that episode, and we should have that review coming up. We had a couple updates to the podcast itself, the website. We're gonna be adding a review section. We'll be sending updates.
Razer Stargazer is actually $149.99.
Oh, that's not bad.
So that's its direct competitor, even though the Razer Stargazer does 1080p 60.
Yeah.
And dynamic background adjustment and Windows Hello as well. From Razer, $149 versus the $199. This will actually probably influence my next camera purchase. I currently have a lower end Logitech, probably like a $70 Logitech webcam, and I'd probably decide between the Logitech Brio, which is this new 4K, the 922E, which is the new like Twitch-based, Twitch-focused cam, and the Razer Stargazer, which is $149.99 and has RealSense and image mapping and a lot of cool stuff too. So this next podcast will directly affect my life.
It will.
Interesting.
I'm
looking forward to it.
Quick back detour. Cassette tapes maxed out at 9 bits, but averaged 5 to 6.
DSD files are 1 bit. Wrap your brain around that shit.
Advanced tape recorders could only reach 13-bit depth. Which is actually pretty good, considering CDs were at 16.
It's true.
It's not bad.
At 44...
44.1.
44.1?
Yeah. Which is more... Well, okay.
It's also lossless PCM.
Yeah.
So you have glorious 2-channel audio.
So, we're going to now...
Wait. Before that...
Killing me.
CDs then progressed to DVD audio 5.1 with Meridian lossless packaging, MLP, which then turned into Dolby True HD, which we now use today. The more you know. Thumbs up, wink, sparkle. Yeah. Rainbow. For more you know. So we'll edit that in.
Ryzen.
This is our meat and potatoes we didn't get to in part A. This is the real shit.
Yeah. So
this is big.
When was Ryzen was announced? Thursday?
Well,
Wednesday.
Officially. I mean, they announced Ryzen as a platform like a year ago.
When they did pre-orders and did a press conference for the announcement.
Recently. Yes. AMD has gone official on the Ryzen with the SKUs, specs, preliminary benchmarks that are, of course, published by AMD. So they... our best
Take it as
case,
it is.
Yeah, best case scenario.
Yep.
And prices, launch dates were ready for Ryzen.
Yep. So as of like Wednesday, the 22nd,
pre-orders are available. Yep.
You can pre-order. They should arrive like the 2nd.
March 2nd.
Yep. Yes. March 2nd. Which you should see benchmarks released that same day at midnight.
Would be when all the reviews are published.
Yeah. Because everybody else has their demo samples and stuff.
They're also going to be launching, I believe, 82 AM4 motherboards on March 2nd.
That's pretty good.
That's a shitload.
Yeah.
You should also see some new liquid loops for the AM4 platform for the socket.
Yeah, Noctua's
brackets.
Noctua's got 3
Fans.
CPU coolers planned. So that's stuff to keep an eye out for.
I'm also super curious about DDR4 memory kits.
Yeah.
See how they support AMD's version of XMP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'm very excited for, to see if it's a separate SKU, if they'll just work, if they work at base clocks, if they can boost, what the base clocks will be for the AM4. Like, is it, 2400 megahertz base, 2200 megahertz base? Like, what is it? How do they boost? Is it specific clocks? Is it special firmware on the DDR kits? What is it?
Yeah, we don't know.
We'll find out.
And that's the thing, is we don't know much past the CPU.
Yeah, we have SKUs, launches, price points, clocks.
Yeah,
and
number of PCI lanes.
TDP.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
And a couple of links to the benchmarks and stuff like that. But seeing like real world game performance, Ryzen versus Intel, like Kaby Lake, that's what we're going to see from people like Paul's Hardware, Bitwit, and Linus Tech Tips, and Jay's 2 cents.
My go-to Anantech. That's where I go.
They're going to have an in-depth one. It'll probably take some time for them.
Their Anantech one will be deep.
Yeah. But if you just want like a quick overview side by side compared to Intel, take a look at the couple of YouTube stars that I kind of listed.
So let's start with what AMD has announced. So this is what they have told us. These are the facts that we know, and then we can get into debating how these apply to what we expect to affect the market, how things work, where things, pros and cons, blah, 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 blah. So 3 SKUs.
So let's first start out by saying what they've announced is their top tier R7
series.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, of course, they're starting out with the enthusiast stuff first.
Yes.
Understandably.
So there will be a 5 series below the 7 series and a 3 series before that, which is very funny because it's i7, i5, i3 for Intel, and it's Ryzen 7, 5, and 3 for AMD. So they're direct competitors in naming schemes.
You have balls. Not going to lie. You have big cojones on this one.
Just going for it.
Just for that. So what they announced earlier this week is their 7 series, their R7. So the thing that's confusing is they have R7 for Radeon graphics and then R7 for Ryzen processors. That's where the R comes from.
That's true.
So whenever you're looking... R7, R9...
Oh, okay, the older one. The current is R9.
Yeah, the current one's R9.
The Radeon 9 series.
Yeah. So that's where things may get confusing if you look it up. So just keep an eye out for that. If you look up R7,
when you're Googling.
Yeah. Googly.
The you Googly.
Yeah. You're a Googleizer. If you know what movie that's from, kudos to you.
Digital 5. Boom.
So, this has been a long time coming. So
2 years they've been working on this.
Well, their last CPU...
That was when they announced it, actually.
The last CPU that they've released that was new-ish was
Bulldozer, right?
Which was 2012, I believe.
Yeah.
It's 2017,
Well, they have, I think the Xbox One and the PS4 are based on Jaguar cores.
Yeah, but we're talking about desktop processors.
Yeah, they're enthusiasts, architecturally based.
There's been 5 or 6 generations of Intel processors between then and now.
Yeah. And see, that will be the largest. I mean, I'll hold back. I won't go down that yet. So what they announced, let's finish this off here. So these are a new architecture.
3 SKUs.
3 SKUs. At the bottom, they have the 1700. Mm-hmm. This is their introductory level processor of the 7 series.
Yeah.
So similar to how Intel has, let's say 6830, 6850, and 6900 or whatever their SKUs are. this is their lower level SKU of the Ryzen architecture, is the 1700. And this is clocked at 3 gigahertz base, 3.7 gigahertz turbo, and priced at $329. That is our introductory SKU. This could have a lot of impact, being all these SKUs are 8 cores and 16 threads.
What's the TDP on that one?
This is a 65 watt.
Wow.
So, hold on. With that, that means you are at a very low wattage and probably literally no headroom to overclock. Typically, when you overclock, you do voltage increases.
Yep.
And especially because this is already on 8 cores, 16 threads. So it is very low power for having the core count that it has. But I would say that this doesn't overclock at all.
Probably not well.
Similar to how Intel has K models. Mm-hmm. So Intel has 6900 and a 6900K, or whatever the models would be. The K nomenclature means it's capable of overclocking. Intel processors that don't have a K in the model SKU cannot overclock.
Yeah.
This, I believe, is the same for AMD here. The 1700, I don't think will have any headroom at all.
Well, that's the difference. You are able to overclock any of these R7 processors. They are all unlocked processors.
Well,
but whether or not the headroom's there or not is a whole nother.
This is a difficult thing on their architecture that Anantech had a really good article on, was how they handle thermal throttling. Because all of the boost ratings for these processors are up to. It's not actual, it gets this much. It's this processor is 3 gigahertz base up to 3.7 gigahertz. However, the way their boost work are with equivalent cooling.
Well, so...
Because they technically have unlocked thermal loads, supposedly, that if they stay under certain temperatures, they can continually overclock.
Yes.
But that 3.7 gigahertz boost might be under a liquid-cooled loop already, that it can theoretically hit that if properly cooled.
That is not the way I have understood everything that I've read. Everything that I've read so far, and this is exactly why we need to have
the actual
physical samples.
We need the actual reviews and not take their slides and their theoreticals as here all.
Because from the way that I've read it so far is you have a 3.0 base with a 3.7 boost, and then anything above 3.7, it can overclock based on your cooling. So if you were running stock cooling on the processor, then it will go up to 3.7. Anything above that, if you have a good cooling, then it will overclock past that and be dynamic per core and stuff like that.
But I do feel like the naming structure on this could, as they've also structured 7, 5, and 3, they have also maybe structured this X nomenclature to overclocking.
Yeah.
So the next model up is a 1700X. Base model is 1700, next model 1700X. I would expect the 1700X to overclock significantly better than the 1700.
Yeah.
So this is a 3.4 gigahertz base clock with a turbo of 3.8 gigahertz, priced at $399. So this processor, I think specifically, will be their huge impact processor.
What's the TDP on that?
This is a 95 watt. After the 65, it's 95. Comparatively, Intel's at 135.
And that's where their equivalent was like 220 watt back in 2012.
Oh, what? For
and this
AMDs?
Was half the cores.
For AMD's?
AMD's was 220 watt or 210
That's insane.
Watt. Oh, it's horrid. But if you want something, they were $200 for their high end processor. So before
they weren't directly competitive, and they were power hungry, and it's completely different market.
It's different. It's completely different now.
Yes.
So, and that's where we'll come back to this a little bit. So we have higher base clock, slightly higher turbo, not only a tenth of a gigahertz.
Yes, but I expect the overclocking potential on this one to be dramatically higher than the 1700 base.
Yeah. I've seen where someone was able to take the 18. So we'll get to the 1800X here in a second, but they were able to take the 1800X up to 5.2.
I saw 5 gigahertz off the 18X on air.
This was liquid nitrogen at like 5.2.
I saw 1800X at 5 gigahertz on air. Was supposedly.
That is
so that's
crazy.
the top of the line. R7 1800X, 3.6 gigahertz base, 4 gigahertz boost.
That, to me, I mean, that is a sweet spot.
This is at
What's the price on this?
$500,
Okay.
$499. So this is 8 cores, 16 threads, 4 gigahertz, $500.
So
And this is competing directly against the Broadwell E $1,000 8-core 16-thread Intel processor.
Yes and no, and we'll get into that. So, I would let's start at the bottom processor. Let's talk about who's it for, who do we think it should be for, and the pros and cons, and then we just work our way up.
So 1700, 3 gigahertz base, 3.7 gigahertz turbo, priced at $329.
Yep.
This is going to be your mainstream processor. Purchase-wise, I would say this is probably at least 70% of SKUs will be this processor.
Yeah, I think
Probably
entry level to higher end gamers that are wanting to stream at the same time.
Yeah, so this will be competing directly for that mainstream market.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this is a 7-layer model. So that's a difficult thing for this is, say, if you want to do mainstream gaming of, say, something like League of Legends. So say I want to play League of Legends and I want to do a build for it. I'm going to build an i5. That i5 will probably be like $130, $150 to $180.
Yeah.
This is a $330 processor, and it's in a 7 series. And our 5 series AMD will be more of a mainstream gamer platform. This at $329 is really only competing with the highest in Kaby Lake, which is $349. So it's...
Well, and that's where I feel like this is even going to outstride that for 2 separate reasons. One, core count for doing streaming at the same time.
So,
and 2, being in the productive space if you're taking that video and editing.
So that would be only to a small market that would want to stream, even smaller market that would edit their video. And then besides that, both the base clock and the overclock clock are clocked lower than the Kaby Lake processor that would compete at this price point. We also know, because of their own benchmarks, that they are only outpacing Intel processors on performance based on higher clock speeds. So AMD's benchmarks that they have shown have outperformed Intel processors, but the AMD's have been at higher clocks, which means that per clock they actually don't perform better than Intel processors. Yeah. At least they're comparing against Broadwell E. In the majority of their benchmarks, both because of price, because the X1800 is $500, which is $200, $150 more than the Kaby Lake, and because of core count, because they're 8 cores, all the Kaby Lakes are 4 cores. So if you look at, say, the 1700 at $329 versus the highest end Kaby Lake at actually, I think it's the Kaby Lake highest end, I think, might be actually more like $380.
Yeah, I was thinking like $370.
I think it went up. But typically it's at a $350 price point. Especially in single-threaded applications, it probably isn't going to outperform a Kaby Lake.
So, let me be frank here for a second. In a real world, who the R7 1700 be for? Nobody.
Well, it's for who doesn't want to spend $400 or $500 because people that want to be on this platform for whatever reason they want to be on this platform that don't want to spend up to start competing with Intel high performance desktop, this is their cheapest option.
Well, and that's where my point was going to come from. There's a difference between in the real world, like real world. For me, I would have been just fine with like an i3, i5 in my gaming
That is
build.
what you have in your server as well as an i3.
An i3.
Correct.
But in my gaming rig, do I have an i3 or i5 just for playing Overwatch? No.
No.
Because it's me.
Yeah, you have an i7.
Of course.
Obviously.
And this is where people are going to look at this, go, I can brag to my friends and say that I spent the same amount as an i5 or i7 processor, but I've got twice as many cores, twice as many threads.
Yes. But mainstream-wise, if you look at the number one game that's played on all of gaming, free-to-play League of Legends, you can spend half the money, get an i5, and have the exact same experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not multi-threaded. CPU is not going to impact the game at all because it's low-fidelity graphics. If you're streaming, they have directly demoed Ryzen streaming on the same PC as gameplay with better performance versus an i7.
Yeah.
So if you want to stream specifically, say on Twitch, then this base model 1700 could be very beneficial to you because you have the additional cores, you have higher clocks, you have all these things. But if you just want to play,
yeah, if you just want to play,
people
wait.
will not have a reason to spend $330 on a processor when you get an i5 and do the exact same thing.
You can
for
play
a
that
low
game on a
fidelity game
laptop.
or an i3 or a laptop.
And that's, you
So
confirm
that's what's difficult for this processor.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, if you were getting into gaming and wanting to stream, I would say this processor, because you can always upgrade. And that's a beautiful thing, like, with any of these processors, you can start in at 329, and you can only go up if you decide that you need more.
Yep.
Knowing AMD, these are going to be around for like 5 or 10 or 15 years.
Well, they have said they have roadmaps for the second and third generation of these already.
Wow.
So they have a game plan for Ryzen 2 and Ryzen 3 in place, in production, ready to go.
So do you think that they're going to more of the Intel route where they're doing the 3-stage refresh?
Well, they said that R3 is going to be on 7 nanometers. So it'll probably be a
that is small
optimization and then actually probably both will be the same thing as Intel. It'll be a optimization and then a node change, but still the same architecture.
Yeah.
Because Intel's gotten away from their tick-tock to now a architecture, refinement, node reduction.
Yeah.
Then new architecture. Like, I think Intel's been on, the current, 14 nanometer for, the last 3 generations. Like, they've been on it for a while. But it'll be interesting to see their next ones. So that's for the 1700. Next one's the 1700X. I think this one will be the most popular.
Yeah, I think it's the best bang for your
processor.
buck, to be honest.
Yes. So you're getting up to 3.8 gigahertz turbo, but the base clock is 3.4, which I think is a good jump over the base clock of the other, depending on how they handle their boost and their throttling for how often it is at what clock speeds. Plus, I'm expecting better overclocking potential out of this chip versus the standard 1700 as well.
So the Intel is process architecture optimization. So you change the
Manufacturing node?
manufacturing node, the architectural process, and then optimize that.
Of that process.
Yeah. So you switch from 14 to 10. You go from Skylake to Ice Lake, and then you optimize that. And then, so more than likely, they're going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. So this 1700X would probably be the processor that I would personally buy.
Yeah, I agree. Because more than likely, you can probably get some good overclock out of it.
Yeah, I think you won't be able to get as much as the 1800X. But
what's the 1800X going for?
So 1800X, their flagship is $499. The 1700X is $399. $100 more for what may equate to 200 megahertz difference at peak overclocking.
Well, that's the thing.
Maybe
is if you're going into if you're wanting to do like production.
Also, I still have to do this.
Okay.
Love those continuity errors. Oh, that's good continuity right there.
That is. So
I feel it.
1800X is, I mean, is their highest end.
Yes. So we're at a base of 3.6, 4.0 boost. This is where it's really going to differentiate itself is the overclocking potential. Well, it's a 95 watt part.
Yeah.
So if
same TBDP as the 1700X.
This is where it gets very difficult for me, because right now they're directly competing at this core count with the Broadwell E platform, with the Enthusiast platform, where you are on a higher TDP. You're at the same cores as this, but because the default TDP is so high, your overclocking potential on Broadwell E is not very high.
Oh, it's not at all.
They typically overclock to like 4.8 maximum. I've seen a Broadwell E overclock to 5.2, not very stable. 5.0 stable-ish, but at very high temps. So stable at 5, but very hot at 5. 4.8, very reasonable on Broadwell E. To where I have rumored of this 1800X at 5 gigahertz on air, which would be extremely positive for this processor.
Oh, yeah.
But because the TDPs are so low, I don't know how much overhead there is for it, because there may be architectural reasons that keep the clocks where they are because of the power draw.
Yeah.
So giving it more voltage might not necessarily give you higher frequency clocks if it's architecturally limited, because maybe you can boost it to 120 watts of power, whatever it may be, by increasing the CPU voltage for whatever the default actual voltage is. But maybe at 95 watts, at 4 gigahertz or at 5 gigahertz, the temps are crazy high. So there may be thermal limits that keep you from really raising it dramatically beyond what the current boost is.
Yeah.
But if they can boost higher because they have the headroom, because their wattage is lower, then that may be really where this has value of paying $500 instead of $400 over the 1700X.
Yeah. And there's a lot of theoretical right now. And because they're competing with X99, which... So the only reason I feel that they're competing with X99 is because of the core count.
The processors, yes. Multi-threaded applications, they can, and rendering applications, those type of applications, that is, where they compete. Because a Kaby Lake is the newest Intel architecture, but it's at 4 cores. A Kaby Lake, highest end Kaby Lake against the highest end Broadwell E, for a multi-threaded application, nowhere close.
No. God, no.
No. The Broadwell E will beat it.
Yeah, hands down.
Guaranteed. And that's where more of these are competing against is the Broadwell E platform because of the core count.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for this processor, you're looking potentially for something to do that type of a rendering workload, potentially. So editing photos, editing video... that's where all the benchmarks they've shown have been for rendering benchmarks.
Yeah.
So you may not necessarily see, that's where we'll start getting into our debate over where the reason to buy these processors are and the pros and cons.
Yeah.
Is if you're gaming, you might not need the 1800X.
No.
I mean, for my own building, if I was going to build a gaming rig on the AM4 platform, I'd probably go with the 1700X.
100%.
I have a cognition that it will overclock better than the 1700. That is just how I think it'll play out. higher clocks, higher frames, more processing, put it on a liquid loop, get the temps reasonable, and make it happen. But at the same time, I could also go with a KB Lake for cheaper than the $400 I'm spending on the 7000X. So,
Well, yeah, and that's where the delineation will come from. Because, like, if I was on KB Lake and, like, because you want to stream
yes.
and game, and you also have a production, your video editing and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on a Haswell E, so that will already handle. It's 6 cores, 12 threads, but performance isn't too dramatic difference between the Broadwell E and versus these.
Yeah.
So that will handle my editing and my streaming. What I'm really looking for is a gaming rig.
Okay, so you're looking to have a separate workstation gaming.
Yes.
Okay.
So because of that, I can go with this processor specifically for a gaming build, even though I think I'll be spending a little more.
So
versus going with a KB Lake build.
let's play hypothetical.
Theoretical, yes.
Okay. R5 comes out. You have, it's a quad core or hexacore. Hexacore?
6 cores.
6 core? So 6 core processor.
6 cores or 4 cores. I think it's 6 cores for the top 5 series.
Okay.
And then the lowest end 5 series is a 4 core.
So if you have a top end 6 core R5 that can hit, a base clock of like 4.2 with a boost of 5.
No, not with these clocks.
No, I'm saying like a 6 core with the same TDP as the R7. 95 watt TDP.
It'd be 65 watt TDP because the 1700 is already a 65. So the rest of them will probably be 65s, I would say.
And that's the thing, is like if I was AMD and wanting to price like a pure gaming where I could just churn those out, 95 watt, like high clock, low core count.
But that's not AMD. They've been doing for the last several years lower power with more cores, but at lower price points. So like, the Fury X was a larger chip, but their trending for their GPUs especially has always been smaller chips compared to NVIDIA's chips, but at lower price points so that you can crossfire them and then beat NVIDIA chips. So if you look at the RX 480, they're smaller chips at smaller price points with lower TDP so you can crossfire them, and then their efficiency in crossfire is crazy.
So,
which is the same thing with their CPUs. They compete at lower levels, specifically.
Nerd to nerd, I think the whole, we're trying to price this lower so you can crossfire, was just a way for them to try and be competitive about the 10 series, like the higher end 10 series stuff, until Vega comes out. Because if you're sitting at the bottom of the pool and go, we're these low end processors.
They're not sitting at the middle. They're sitting in the middle of the pool. Processors are at the bottom of the pool, but GPUs have been in the middle of the pool. But if I might say, the R9 Duo Pro, which is 2 Fury X's on one PCB, is the fastest graphics card on one PCB that exists.
Yeah.
Duo Pro, which is now priced at like $800. $800? I think $799.
Yeah.
It launched at $1,500. It's down to $799. Is faster than a Pascal Titan X because it is 2 Fury X's in Crossfire on one board. They've been doing that since the 6990. The 6990, the 7990, and the 295, which was their dual 200s. I think they have a 3. They have a 3 series. They've always done a dual GPU. So they do lower clocked, more power efficient GPUs and then crossfire them. And that is more their strategy. So I think as they go lower in this range, so like the 5 series, it will be more towards that lower end, like smaller transistor count, smaller TDP versus an i5. I don't know if the R5 will directly compete with the i5, where the 7 series do compete with the 7 series.
Yeah.
Especially when they drop prices. I mean, we're already down to $329. Once the 5 series comes out and you're going below 300, I don't know.
And I guess that's where, until we get some of these like out in the real world, out in the wild, and see what like the processors can do, and see where the rest of the lineup kind of falls, it's really hard to tell.
I know.
And because I trying to pick these out per use case, like, because I know what's reasonable. Like, if you're just doing pure gaming, quad core, where you can overclock the snot out of it, great. But an octa-core or hexacore, I mean, you're looking at lower clocks, but you're looking at efficiency if you're doing editing or you want to do streaming.
Yeah.
It.
So that's where I also have an interesting play on this processor, is if that is their allure, is I'm a $500 processor competing with a $1,000 processor for workload of workstation applications that are multi-threaded. So use this processor for this purpose, for getting this performance. But their benchmarks they've been running have been on 16 gigs of RAM. And their motherboards for these AM4 platforms don't compete with X99 as a platform.
So, let's dig into that. So
that's the problem.
So right now, AMD is comparing these R7 architecture
to X99.
So right now, R7 only supports 4 DIMMs of RAM, which maxes out 64 gigs? Or
you should be able to do to 128. Oh, no, 64. Yeah, 64. 64 gigs.
So 64 gigs of RAM, DDR4. We don't know the maximum clock.
Don't know the minimum clock, the standard clock without overclocking.
The base clock, yeah.
We don't know the base clock of their RAM.
Yeah. We know how many PCIe lanes, which is 24.
Which is below the, what is it, 38?
36 or 38.
36 or 38. That's on X99.
Yeah. Well, depending on your processor.
They have NVMe solid state support.
Yep.
They have USB 3.0 native. That's the thing to consider, that today AMD's platform is on PCIe 2.0. It's on DDR3 RAM, and USB 3.0 isn't even native. It's on third-party controllers. So this is a huge leap for AMD. It is a giant leap.
Out of all of the motherboards the AMD processors have been out since like 2010, 2011. I have found one motherboard that supports NVMe drives.
And that's because that board has a controller, third party, that's not supported by the Southbridge or the chip, that does that for the motherboard.
Yeah.
It's like when motherboards that are very expensive use PLX PCIe chips to get more PCIe lanes, so you can do 16, 16, 16, 16 on your PCIe lanes for graphics cards. It's doing additional things that the manufacturer is doing that's not supported by the chipset to make all these things happen, to make up for the base
lack
stats. So this is a huge jump, but this is where it gets interesting, as we're saying, is the Ryzen CPU competes with X99.
Yeah.
The Ryzen motherboard's AM4 platform does not compete with X99. It competes with the 1150 platform socket of Z270.
Yeah.
Not X99. So as we're looking at that, if you're building a workstation, you can say, oh, I can compete with the CPU for $500 instead of $1,000, even though there are other CPUs at the $650 price point.
Yeah.
And there's another CPU above that they haven't compared with for $1,200 that probably beats it in all the benchmarks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $1,200 processor versus a $500 processor. It better beat it, but there is a processor above the 6900 that they haven't done any benchmarks against, because they probably lose.
So I'm going to bring this part up. In this Ryzen architecture, aren't they supposed to come out with like server chipsets?
They announced server GPUs for Vega.
Not GPUs.
I don't know.
CPUs.
They announced like Naples for like tablets and ultrabooks. I don't know.
I thought they talked about servers.
They talked about Instinct Pro, which is for GPUs, and they talked about Naples, which is for ultrabooks, tablets. I don't know if they talked server Opterons. I haven't seen anything. I don't think we're Opterons.
Because, I mean, if they take this technology and go towards like a server workstation, like more workstation based, I mean, could you imagine this with double amount of PCIe lanes, double amount of RAM?
But that would still put it on x99 levels. Like
Exactly.
Intel's workstation platform has fucking 24 cores, 48 threads per processor on the E4
Yeah,
platform.
but they're like 2.5 gigahertz. And
But it's also like 2 terabytes of RAM.
Yeah,
And like all this
that's
insanity. They're not going to compete. But still,
we're going down a rabbit
This
hole.
is the conundrum, is you want to get this processor for its compute for a workstation to pay $500. Yes, a $500 processor competing against a $1,000 processor and coming close is extremely impressive, but you're going to half the RAM, period. You're going to get significantly less SATA ports. I think the majority of the motherboards I've seen that are on the X370, which is their high-end motherboard platform, have like 4 or 6 SATA ports. I mean, my X99 on Sandy Bridge E has 12, 14 SATA ports for hard drives. I mean, it's half, maybe, for SATA ports. PCIe lanes, I think it's 16 total for GPUs. So maybe you can do 2 GPUs at 8X. And then you have 4 more lanes for auxiliary. Is it 20 lanes, 26 lanes? How many lanes was
26.
it? 26 lanes?
26 or 24.
The PCI lanes are significantly less for additional cards. Say if you want sound cards, or I have a USB 3.1 10 gigabit card in mine, or Thunderbolt cards, all, SATA expansion cards. All those you have less PCIe lanes for. Your memory is significantly reduced, and you're not going to have the same type of storage capacities because you have less amount of drives. So if you want to use this as a platform for a workstation, you're limited by the actual platform you're building it on. You can render everything super quick, but if I have half the amount of storage that I could potentially have on an Intel platform, then maybe I don't want to go that direction.
Well, and that's where, so I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one because someone's got to. How much RAM do you use whenever you do video editing?
I think the highest I have 32 gigs. The highest I think I've seen it go is 18.
Okay. So 18 gigs of RAM.
That's while editing. I don't know if I'm rendering how high it goes though.
Okay. So we're
well
You
below
have
the 64 limit.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and if you're doing a workstation where you're doing editing, you don't want to store, 90 terabytes on your desktop PC.
Well,
If you have that much data, you need to be going a Xenon processor with ECC memory, a RAID system.
what it allows you to do is if you have more ports available, you can get cheaper hard drives at lower capacities to achieve the same amount of storage versus spending up. Like if I only have 4 SATA ports, maybe I'll have to spend up to 10 terabyte hard drives because I want to optimize those 4 ports.
If you have to put more than 2 terabytes into your editing computer, then you need to start looking at some type of NAS storage.
But this is for just like the workstation computer. It's
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going towards NAS workstations, then you're probably going towards Xenon processors, and then they
Exactly.
just destroy what we have here on
Well,
Ryzen.
that's the thing is like if you have the workstation to where, like, even for us, like I'm not using my laptop or desktop and storing everything on it.
It's a laptop.
Or even my desktop. I'm not going to trust my desktop computer.
My
to do that.
desktop has everything.
Exactly. And we've had that discussion about storing that much data
onto a desktop without redundancy.
Yeah.
But that's why I spend up on power supplies and on reliable hard drives instead of getting cheap little, Seagate bullshit drives.
Well, they've gotten better, but that's a whole...
And cheaper power supplies. I feel very confident in the stability of my system.
But things do happen. Manufacturer errors. I mean, there's more than just the quality of hardware within the system that can create a failure. And so, but having a better place, like I'm running FreeNAS, as it finds error, it fixes those errors.
Mm-hmm.
Does your desktop PC do that? It doesn't. Mm-hmm. And if I have a drive fail, I run 5 minutes down the road to Fry's and I get a new hard drive.
But the people that would be buying this processor would be buying it in the platform because it's $500 cheaper than the Intel equivalent. So those people that this processor markets towards would... a dedicated NAS external storage thing would be probably farther down the line because they're building this based on the price.
And so if you run into the fact that you ran out of storage on your computer and you haven't had those 6 years to save up money for a NAS drive,
but that's the thing,
then you're doing something wrong on Twitch.
But that's the thing is, if I have 12 SATA ports, I could do 2 terabyte drives cheaper across all 12 and end up with 24 terabytes versus if I only have 4 ports and want the same amount of storage, I have to go with significantly higher drives.
Well, that's the thing is price per terabyte. You're looking at 4 or 5 terabytes drives.
I mean, you're going to be forced to go up to 4 or 5 terabyte drives if you're limited to SATA ports.
No, I'm not talking about forced. I'm just talking about price per terabyte. Price per terabyte on a 4 to 5 terabyte drive is the
more
best.
Competitive. Yeah. But you still are limited. If it had more PCIe...
You may concede now,
If it had more PCIe lanes, it wouldn't be as bad because you'd be able to do SATA expansion cards. So if it had more PCIe lanes, then you could add SATA expansion cards, make up for the loss in SATA ports, and add additional storage. Because it's marketed at $500 towards a workstation audience because you can buy a Kaby Lake i7 quad core, but for gaming at $350 instead of $500.
So let's look at it this way. How about this? Let's take a new approach. Let's compare. Let's look at someone who is trying to decide. Sorry.
Disgusting.
Gonna sneeze.
I feel it. Look into a light. We have some studio lights here.
We do.
They're diffused. They're not too bright, but they're even.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing bright to stare into.
No.
That's how you're supposed to sneeze. Just stare into something bright.
So, if you're trying, to me, there's quite a large gap between Z270 and X99.
There really is. My processor that I have on Haswell E was $640.
Plus an increase in cost on the motherboard.
Yeah, motherboard was $400.
Yeah.
$350-ish because of the model I purchased, but it comes hand in hand with all of its features and supports.
Yeah. There's a premium on X99 versus Z170 or Z270.
I've seen $400 A270 boards, though.
Well, yeah. I was looking at one of those.
Yeah, I've seen they do price up that high for specific features.
Yeah,
but
that workstation.
Generally, but it's also you don't have to go with Z270. The Skylake will fit in the B series and the H series and the lower end series.
Well, we're getting off track a little bit. Yeah,
because those also exist on the Ryzen platform. There's the X370 and a B370 and the lower end 370s as well. But I mean, even the X370 still is baseline compared to the Z270, which still doesn't compete against the X99. And that's not to mention that this year they'll replace X99 V3 with the 2113, I think, socket. and fucking bump up everything again
Yeah.
for the new enthusiast platform, because they're also competing against Broadwell E, which came out a year and a half ago, maybe more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Intel's going to be ready this year to release a new enthusiast platform that their chipset and their motherboard platform will move even farther ahead.
So
that's what's difficult.
If there is this void between X99 and Z270
that this Ryzen can
and
fill.
This exactly where it falls. Because if you're looking at Z270 and going, I feel like I need more cores than this to do video editing, but I don't feel like I can afford X99. AMD's going,
but
I'm an affordable option.
But X99 has like the 5820, which was my generation. I'm not sure. It's probably 6820 now or 6800. That is an X99 platform processor for $380, which is significantly cheaper than the $500.
But you have less PCIe lanes,
which you also have with the Ryzen. They're equal, as they're both 28. If it's 26 lanes on PCIe for Ryzen, it's 28 lanes for the lowest end Haswell E or Broadwell E.
Yeah.
So your PCIe lanes are equal, and you're saving $180 or $120. Plus getting 4 additional DIMMs of memory, more 3.0 ports, more SATA ports.
Yeah.
SATA, they both support SATA Express. You're just on a better platform overall. But it's a 6-core, 12-thread that probably doesn't compete with the 1800X. So this is our conundrum, folks. Is these processors themselves are probably amazing for gaming and streaming, and the majority of their competitive benchmarks have been for gaming, even though they've been benchmarked against the enthusiast platform, which is not meant for gaming. It's meant for workstation loads. So, like me, if I was going to do a gaming build now, I think I would actually spend up to the 1700X.
Yeah.
Because I don't need 8 DIMMs of RAM for games. I don't need a lot of SATA ports for games. I don't need these things, but me as an enthusiast and someone who spends money to buy more premium products, I could see myself going to the 1700X for gaming. The 1800X, I think, is more directed towards that workstation market, and I don't have a reason to bump up to and spend the extra.
No, you don't. No.
For gaming specifically, but me myself will be spending an extra $50 versus a Skylake because I would want to go on this platform for the cores and for what they're doing.
Yeah, the software on it for doing the streaming and stuff it's really cool. So we'll see in time. Go ahead.
Have they said anything about HDCP 2.2, about the reserve memory pool that cannot be accessed by external systems, so that you could play back 4K Netflix from these processors?
Nope.
Because right now, the only way to get 4K out of a media center PC is for a Skylake processor.
Yeah.
Have they said anything about protected memory and HDCP 2.2 and all that jazz?
No. So, I'm going to be that guy.
We're not that far away from launch, Eric. We're February 24th is when we're recording this. The press embargo lifts in less than a week.
Oh, I know. So
we should have these details.
I'm going to be this guy. Not, I can look back in our show notes, but a couple months ago, we're like, where are you going to watch 4K? 4K is stupid. Anything under 65 to 70 inches on a display.
How dare you? But HDR is dramatic.
You're right.
There's like no HDR computer monitors that exist.
No, so you have, right now, Intel has a CPU that supports, on a desktop, or I guess even laptop laptops that you wouldn't be able to tell between the difference between 1080p and 4K.
Well, probably not truthfully, but you're also averaging in seating distance. Like 50-inch on a 4K is not influential because of standard seating distance of like 6 or 7 feet. On something like a laptop, your viewing distance is more like a foot. So, significantly lower, you're significantly closer. That's like why DPI matters on phones. That's why we have phones that continually increase resolution, like, G6, Galaxy S8, the new HTC Ultra are all 2560, 1440 resolution, increasing because you hold them, well, like an inch and a half away for VR, but also because of the distance from them.
But the people that can tell the difference between 4K, 1080p, and 720p are not watching it on their phone.
Yeah.
Those people that are that enthusiastic about high resolutions and high bit rates, really good quality compression, they have good TVs that are calibrated. They are set up for this. They're not going to, if they are enthusiastic about 4K and they just spent $2,000 to $4,000 on a 4K display in their living room, they are not going to want to watch 4K on their desktop gaming PC.
But at the same time, 4K gaming does exist. That's why we have the graphics cards we have. Because 1080p gaming
but you don't
on
need
a Titan X, no. Titan X doesn't have to exist for 1080p gaming. It'll run any game that exists at 1080p at 500 frames. It doesn't matter for 1080p. The reason that GPUs keep accelerating is because of increased resolutions. And
why is that resolution increasing?
LG and Samsung both have HDR10 computer monitors now.
Okay.
At 4K.
Okay.
So you can now, moving forward, and will continue to trend forward, gaming monitors, quote unquote gaming monitors, with HDR10 and with 4K resolutions that can also be used with Ultra HD Blu-rays, Netflix, etc.
Which I get for games. But like if I am watching Netflix, I am not watching it in my desk chair at my desktop. I am sitting on my comfy ass couch, watching TV, laying back, and enjoying the experience.
So if I can reinforce your point, I have never watched Netflix from my computer.
I have never either.
Never. I only load Netflix on my computer to check my queue for my DVDs. For my Blu-ray.
I haven't loaded in my laptop probably 2 or 3 years. I have only either watched it downstairs. Now, I will have a caveat. I have watched it on my computer monitor, but it's through an HDMI port from an Apple TV, and I'm laying across the room in my bed.
Yep. Which would have no benefit for 4K.
Nope.
But,
suck it, Intel.
But
suck it.
If you owned, say, the new 32-inch LG 4K that supports HDR10, I guarantee you that you would use it. I mean, it's probably like a $1,500 monitor, so you'd better fucking damn use it.
No, and that's the thing, is I would probably only use it for games. That's the only place where I would enjoy 4K HDR content.
And
I would not enjoy it through Netflix.
But you know what?
Netflix looks like shit.
But more games are going to support 4K and HDR10.
Exactly.
Because Xbox One S supports HDR and PS4 Pro supports HDR. And they're both HDR10, so you're going to see more monitors come out HDR10.
But you don't need a processor that supports that encryption, though.
HDR10 does.
Fucking serious?
Yes. I'm fairly confident that HDR10 does. Dolby Vision does not. Dolby Vision supports down to HDMI 1.4 with standard HDCP because it's handled separately.
Well, HDCP through video games is fairly non-existent.
It doesn't exist at all.
Exactly. So why are we talking about HDCP?
Exactly. Because there are bullshit things through HDR10 that end up requiring it.
So people out there that think that AV is like an easy job,
Oh my god.
you can suck it.
Yeah. Suck it.
Because, oh my god. All the caveats and like.
I know. Just wait till we get to
shit works.
HDCP Pro, bro. Wait for Pro.
I don't even want to talk about that right now.
We'll have a podcast or we'll bitch about HDCP Pro. And
yeah, if I need to, I'll get Mike Cromer. Not Mike Cromer. Wow. Mike Buckland on this show.
That dude's fucking legit.
Yeah. Mike Buckland is our BIAMP rep, and he's been talking about
HDCP Pro for the new Tessera Lux products.
Yeah.
Which will be new hardware. It can't be firmware updated. It's physical new hardware for HDCP Pro.
Yeah. So,
okay, so
where did we land? We got to wrap this up.
So, it's in a weird spot because it's workstation CPUs, basically, because of core count and because of price, that don't 100% compete with workstations because of the platform they're on, but they do benchmark-wise, and they're overpriced compared to Intel's mainstream, like Skylake.
Yeah.
But for me personally, if I'm going to build a gaming rig, I am fairly confident I'm going with the 1700X.
Okay. So, because
I'm spending up for premium.
If you are, let's price this out. If you're looking to do editing, streaming, gaming, 1800X.
For one processor, with one computer, with one build.
Yeah.
100%.
If you're looking for gaming and streaming, okay, I'm going to preface this even more. With the current lineup that has been confirmed through press event that are pre-ordering, if you were gaming and streaming, maybe a little bit of editing, nothing, maybe on the side, just to post on YouTube to get viewers or whatever. 1700X. 1700?
Starts to get really fucking difficult.
Maybe just gaming and some streaming on the side, where you're just looking for the step up from, because you're from Intel, where you're struggling with streaming and gaming at the same time on the Intel platform.
I've never seen anyone struggle truthfully from streaming and gaming on Twitch.
Are you just looking for something better at that price point?
If you just want the platform for some reason, even though it doesn't have any advantages over Z270.
But that's the thing, is like, spend an extra $70 and go to the 1700X and get the higher TDP.
Or
maybe if you're worried about power consumption,
save $120 and go with an i5 and go with Z270 or B270 or H270.
Yeah, but then you lose the overclocking if you go to those.
But if you're a mainstream gamer, like look at League of Legends, Overwatch.
Well, League of Legends and Overwatch are
those are two
non-CPU or GPU dependent.
Overwatch,
GPU,
I don't push that high of Overwatch frames myself, but League of Legends especially, largest competitive game is Counter-Strike Go. I get 300 frames for that, no problem. You're playing League of Legends, you're playing Overwatch, you're playing CSGO, the mainstream H1Z1 has terrible graphics. You need nothing to run that.
If you're playing like Doom, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, if you're doing high-end, high resolutions, that's another thing, is it's like 80% of gamers are on 1080p screens on PCs.
Yeah.
So that's really where this continues to get difficult.
Let's preface this a little bit about last generation CPUs from AMD, because I went through this.
Why bother?
So I went through having the last generation AMD Bulldozer 8-core processor overclocked. Switch out motherboard, RAM, processor, kept the same GPU, increased frame rates instantly, like dramatically. All because CPU bottleneck. Even though the CPU wasn't at a high load, we still got increased performance. Just for some reason, I'm not an electrical engineer, computer engineer. But that's where I'm really interested to see is what is the gaming difference? Same game, same graphics card, same amount of RAM between an Intel price point wise.
Yeah.
Intel versus AMD. I don't care about core count.
Because
core count is useless.
Because there could be efficiencies based on the architecture for this processor, even though, I mean, you've never been able to go clock for AMD versus Intel.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, the $200 4.8 gigahertz fucking ridiculous AMD processor that's $250 that comes nowhere fucking close to a 3.5 gigahertz, Broadwell with more cores. It's not a clock for clock type thing. Oh, excuse me. But that's where we got to see on how it applies, where the efficiencies are. I know Doom, their benchmarks for Doom and for, I think, Battlefield as well, are higher frames on the 1700 versus the Intel equivalent, the 6800K, I think is what they're directly competing against.
Yeah.
So they could have efficiencies in specific applications that may make them a better choice for whatever the game may be. But there's also games where you have, your 8-core $1,000 i7, and then you have the budget i5, and the difference is 3 frames. So,
well, yeah, and that's where we won't know until
the official everything breakdown comes out. But I think the best thing about this still overall is, even if it's just benchmarks, they have a $500 processor competing against a $1,000 processor. Intel hasn't had competition in like 5-6 years, probably. They've been alone at the top, and forcing them to now have a competitor will be better for the industry, period. I mean, a lot of these CPUs are roadmapped, years in advance.
Yeah.
And they're probably pretty locked into their next couple generations, but just having the options available and having AMD compete and have competitive options on the market is just huge for computers in general.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
So, I suggest just kind of sticking your ear to the ground, seeing what happens.
Yeah, I'd say unless you're going 1700, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't pre-order.
No.
Wait for motherboards. Wait for reviews. We'll see what happens. I expect great things.
Yeah.
But it'll
cautiously optimistic.
It'll depend on your situation and how you're using these things.
I mean, AMD's pulled this shit before, like the hype train. This is going to be the best thing ever, and then it just falls flat on its face.
I mean, AMD has also done first 64-bit processor is AMD. Every Intel processor that is 64-bit has licensed architecture and patents from AMD that they pay.
And that's what
first dual-core processor, AMD. First quad-core processor, AMD. They have innovative designs. Their architectural revolutions do happen from this company.
Yeah, I know. And that's we're hoping, and I feel like my Facebook post was just summed it up kind of quite nicely. Oops.
Preach it, bro.
Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook.
Hey, find us on Facebook at
Nerds of the Roundtable Podcast.
At Facebook. Also, find our website at nerdspodcast.tech. Because we're badass like that. Fuck comms.
So, AMD finally stepping up their game after falling asleep on the market.
Seriously.
Absolutely nothing from them for the past 5-6 years.
I mean, I think they've been doing good on the GPU side with stuff like FreeSync and with the RX 480 and the Pro Duo. I think like their GPUs. I have an AMD GPU. My next GPU will be an AMD GPU. I love FreeSync.
Yeah.
FreeSync 2 is also amazing with HDR and HDCP and 2.2 and all that stuff. But yeah, it's they have been literally asleep, competing with their high end against i5s.
Yep. Hopefully they live up to the hype. Stay tuned if they get released on March 2nd and benchmark and see how they stack up against the blue team.
Yep. So, what, next week then? We'll have a podcast to go over all this.
We'll see.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
What's March 2nd?
In the near future.
What's the 2nd?
Thursday?
Oh, maybe if we did one on Thursday.
Oh, God.
Because I'm leaving 6 a.m. on Friday.
Oh.
For Canada.
That's exciting, though.
Never coming back.
Canada.
Trump's America.
Serious.
Bye.
Never coming back. We'll do future podcasts via Skype.
No.
God.
No.
Obviously, Google Hangouts, not Skype.
God, yes.
We need that software AEC and the beautiful codecs that they use. They use
much better than
They use VP9, I think, for actual video codec. Good old VP9.
We can actually do video calling from Nextcloud.
We can.
I found there's a plugin for it. I'm like, what the hell?
I'm all about Hangouts.
I am
all
too.
Day. So we'll have some exciting stuff.
Quick amendment to the. I was doing quick research while we were sitting here. December 12th, QSC released a software update to version 5.3, which updates their cores and software to support AES 67, which is the Dante support.
Yeah.
So if you have a current like 110F, 250, 500i core, you can update those to the latest software and be able to get AES 67 through the QLAN ports.
Do you have numbers on the number of flows they can do? Like number of streams, basically?
I don't.
Because that varies dramatically.
Let's see.
Because it could be a 2x2 or a 64-64, which is 8 channels per flow for multicast flows. So that could be a dramatic difference in channels.
I will have to follow up with our QSC rep.
We'll follow up. There's actually a lot I want to follow up on for that stuff.
More than likely, because they rate each of their cores based on the amount of audio streams over the network. Like the 110F supports like 32 by 32 over the LAN port. And so I would assume
that stream is not channels.
That is. So like if you have 8 channels of Dante plus so many channels of QLAN, that adds up to your total.
But I know from my recent Dante training, like a stream of unicast Dante has 4 channels no matter what, even if you're only transmitting 1.
Correct.
So is that one stream taking up one of those 32s?
No,
channels. Which would be 4 channels, or would it be... Because, I mean, it's 4 channels embedded into a single stream. Or like a multicast stream is 8 channels. So is that one flow, which is technically one stream, which is 8 channels, or is it 32 total channels?
That is a really good question. I think we should get our QSC rep on.
Let's talk about that.
I think we should. Remind me, and I will call him and get his ass. And if we need to, we'll get a QSC engineer.
Yeah. They're super
out here.
badass.
If we need to, we'll get a demo core.
We'll take it to the top.
We will go to the factory. The other thing I want to get in the shop to do some testing on, even if we need to go into our rep's office to do a video, is I want to see their camera. I want to see their PTZ camera.
They have a 4K camera. They do.
I want to see this thing. I want to hook my laptop up to it and see what first experience is like.
I'd also be very curious to see how the control works for smoothness of panning.
Oh, I know.
Like the Vadio robo shots are crazy smooth, crazy fast.
Just
nice.
like
boom, just like they lock on. The zoom's quick. Like
Yeah.
they're very smooth, very quick.
So the one thing I am going to touch on with PTZ cameras that sets a price bracket apart from another is the cheaper PTZ cameras. Whenever you like recall preset, they can do horizontal and then vertical. So like if you are
at the
doing
same time. Oh, so
So you'll see
pan
the camera
one
go-
direction, then the other direction, then
Yes.
the zoom. Oh, that's weird.
versus like nicer ones will do all of them at the same time.
Yeah, it'll be a location in space.
Yeah.
It'll be an XY value instead of an X value, then a Y value.
Yeah. And they divide that based on the duration that it takes and stuff like that. So it depends on what you're doing and how you're controlling it, stuff like that. So professionals out there look into that based on what your client needs are. It's usually not a big deal for most things unless you're doing like a high-end production facility,
Yeah.
like live streaming like Google.
Mm-hmm. We know that.
They need that high-end shit because they're running 1080p 60 out of their cameras. Or 5994?
5994.
Yeah.
Off of Sony's. Panasonic.
Panasonics.
Panasonics that we're
Yeah.
using.
HE3s?
Which we're using Sony Visca protocol.
Well, no, not on
485.
those. Not on those.
Those are 485 all the way. Loop throughs. Yeah, they were.
Ha.
Shit.
I was the engineer on that.
Stop that. I wired that shit.
In Google's production environments, they have two different cameras.
Oh, fuck, that's true. Damn it.
Their production cameras
Are the Panasonics with a dedicated camera controller.
that work over the network.
Dick.
For their standalone, what do they call it?
The basic mode.
What's it called though? Forget what it's called. DIY.
Yeah, the DIY
The
mode.
DIY mode
Is
uses
separate
Sony cameras
with
that-
the fucking Viscas on 485 with the loop through.
because it's running off a separate processor.
Dicks.
Engineering.
Where the Panasonics are direct runs to the camera controller.
Yeah, Cat 5.
I hate you.
Yeah, but that's the difference is whenever you're doing production, when you have a camera controller, you get to control pan, tilt, zoom at the same time over the network. It's not a huge deal. But if you're sending serial controls, trying to send horizontal, vertical, zoom
Yeah.
at the same time, it's not going to happen.
You know, I just used a, on like how Panasonic VTC boards, like control boards, they'll have just the little slider 2 buttons for zoom.
Yeah.
Like where you'll go up for zoom, back for, unzoom.
Yeah.
Positive zoom and negative zoom. I just did a Vadio controller where it had one joystick. You had to rotate the head of the joystick to zoom in and out.
Yeah. That's every production camera controller ever.
No, the Panasonic SDI switches that have camera controls have just the 2 button.
Okay. So the high-end real video production camera,
Bullshit.
because you have pan, tilt, and zoom is rotate on you don't have a separate control. It's on the one joystick.
No, you have just the dedicated zoom control, so you can use 2 hands separately. Plus, you have it right next to your sliders for keying as well, right there. Come on.
Look at the Panasonic camera controller that Google uses.
Yeah, it definitely does not use the top. No, that has a separate
It doesn't.
WZ for zoom and wide.
It doesn't.
Yeah, bullshit. Fact check this fucker.
Now I've got to look it up.
Okay, but
So plug away.
still, kind of excited for Ryzen. It's going to be interesting to see if people spend up to it for the sake of gaming, they spend down to it for the sake of workstations, or decide it's not worth it for the workstations because of the platform that it's on. We'll get a lot more details for RAM clocks, which will be important. We know we have NVMe, we have USB 3.1, 10 gigabit. We have DDR4. It's a huge step up for AMD as a platform. Having actual competition for Intel will be huge for everyone involved. I'm very curious how the R5, or more importantly, the R3s will do. And even more curious beyond that about how the Naples mobile chips will be applied to this, especially considering the TDPs. We're at 95 and 65 for this amount of cores. I'm sure they'll have a new architecture for the mobile chips, but if they can get, really far down there, I think the Intel mobile chips are at like 9 and 7 watts around there. They can hit like 5. That'd be incredible. But AMD's always been really good at that. At like their bulldozer cores are super low, not low end, but super low TDP. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they go with it. I'm personally super pumped for Vega. Once that comes out, you'll see reviews from us on Vega, I am sure, because I'm going to fucking rock that shit. And I have Doom. I mean, I have a lot of games, a lot of platforms. We'll get some good benchmarks out of Vega, and I have Haswell E, 5960K, which is a 6-core, 12-thread processor, but it'll be plenty for gaming. And it's just a good time for computers. It's going to get more interesting at the end of the year when Intel launches their new platform and their Skylake E / Kaby Lake E. We'll see. It's Kaby Lake S / Skylake E. It's like a weird, there's random crap that like people don't quite know what they're doing.
Nobody knows.
They might do like a new E on the X99 V3 that's out now, and they might do a new socket of the 2133, I think it is, socket, which is way freaking gigantic and will be insane. But this whole year for PCs is going to be crazy. It's going to be a great year for gaming too in general, just with Xbox Scorpio coming out this year, PlayStation Pro being in existence for longer. I mean, we're going to see some great stuff from PCs this year.
Also, stay tuned we're going to do our own PC builds. I have a video hopefully coming out, depending on how the content came out, for upgrading our server here at the house, which hosts a lot of things.
Once I do that, once Vega comes out, I'll do an install video of that beast so you can see the size of it, the install.
Yeah, we'll do a review
outputs,
on that.
Everything.
Yeah.
I think we haven't really done guided tours videos of our builds yet. We'll probably end up doing that for videos.
Once I do water cooling, I'll probably do that.
I'll do the an EK water blocks custom loop.
Yeah, I'm going to do a custom loop because I'm going to get a new case.
Settle that money down, Eric.
Someday.
Contain it.
Trust me, it's far down the line.
It's so expensive. We'll so nice though.
Oh, it's so exciting.
And then maybe
I've got the plan.
Maybe my gaming build. We'll see. Maybe I'll end up jumping on a 1700X. I don't know though, because I really want a LG E6 65-inch OLED.
So
I really want that. So I don't know if I'll probably hold off on the gaming build. Just get the Vega 10, keep it in my current PC, then get an E6, then maybe a gaming build. We'll see.
So speaking of money,
speaking of funds,
I would really love acoustic panels.
That is
because we're audio guys.
That'd be super badass. Just put one over our current acoustic treatment.
Our bass trap.
Our corner trap right here.
Yes. Yes.
What month is it? It's
almost March.
Almost March. It's still alive though. I mean, it's nice. Yeah. This is real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels real.
Yeah. It hasn't been my choice.
It smells good. Pine Christmassy.
So I would love to be able to make acoustic panels, and it's something I can make a video of us doing some carpeting work, make some acoustic panels, because I want to make them portable. Or
if I could plug GIK acoustics.
I looked in the pricing on those.
Beautiful. I love what they do.
It might be cheaper to go GIK.
Yeah, they are really nice. Or if we want to go crazy, we can do art panels and put our logo on them once we have a logo.
I was looking, it was like 12 panels for like $600 or $800. Yeah. I was like, that's
good.
So
help us out.
So
community.
look us out. Look us up on Patreon, patreon.com/nerdspodcast.
Yeah.
You can find us on Facebook, Nerds of the Roundtable Podcast. You can find us on nerdspodcast.tech. We are on Google Play and iTunes as Nerds of the Roundtable Podcast.
Yep.
You can contact us on Facebook, on our website.
There's a contact form up there. You can just go to contact, fill in the information, send it all along.
Yep. Or if you're one of those people that likes it to be direct, you can do nerds contact at nerdspodcast.tech.
And a dog tech is so badass.
Baller.
Not tech.
So if you send us an email, I'll respond to you, let you know if we're going to use it on the show, if when, and if it's going to be a while, I'll go ahead and respond to your question. But if it's going to be within like a week, then if you could just
we'll make it
hold on.
happen. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. So just keep that stuff in mind whenever you guys submit questions. And we love questions. And the more that...
I didn't realize I had more beer in here. That was very fast.
Fail.
That was a terrible pour. I thought this was basically empty.
The more you guys view, share, like anytime like I post on Facebook and you guys like or share, repost, if you take the video feed and post it on your Facebook, just share it with your friends. And
join our nerds community.
If there's something specific like nerds topic that you want us to talk about, I mean, you got to tell us. Because this can't be a one-sided conversation. I understand.
Well, it's just more fun with our nerds, with our people.
Yeah, and whatever you guys like or don't like, let us know. Because I definitely want to do a couple like interviews, bring in a couple of like reps and stuff.
But don't be too terrible with that. Don't be too mean. I'm a sensitive man. I cry easily.
We are looking for constructive
criticism.
No,
thank you, Eric.
Not criticism, feedback. If you have suggestions.
Yeah. First comment, Sean, stop being a douche.
So, because it is hard for us to break through this YouTube barrier, because there are people out there that have been there, God, so many years longer than us.
Yeah, but screw those people.
And, I reach out to the inspiration of these YouTube stars on stuff that I like and don't like, but I also look for your feedback, what you guys respond to.
Oh, yeah.
Our red light is gone on the camera. So,
it's back. We were just afraid that the camera died.
Oh, God. That's weird. I'm going to look into that.
All right, we probably just lost.
Oh, I think I know why. I think the camera, whenever the file size gets above a certain point, it creates it creates a new file, and so that was probably the transition from one file to the next file.
Okay, continuity error again. Awesome.
Well, it's consistent. It doesn't break. It just fills a buffer and then transfers that to the SD card.
So it fills the buffer, then writes it.
Yeah. Once it creates a new file.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. So, whatever you guys have, send us this way. If you have beer requests, I mean...
Oh my God, recommendations, please.
There's a beer store that carries oddball stuff.
You know what? I forgot to mention because of the continuity.
Oh, yeah.
I now have an Oak Lore Brown Ale. I have like Babe the Blue Bison on here. It's pretty good. This is from Evans Brewing Company, brewed in Orange County since 1994. OC, that's where we're located.
Wow.
If you guys have like any beer that we can get a hold of that's like exclusive beer, stuff we wouldn't find down here in California, that'd be super badass. I'm a big fan of Great Divide in Colorado. My buddy Mitch lives in Colorado. The Hercules Double IPA.
Yeah.
I'm
not a big fan, but
no,
it's strong.
Don't you fucking say that, Eric. Don't you say that.
I like IPAs.
You want me to not hate you. This is a double IPA. It is beyond an IPA. It's not hoppy. It's just, it's
terrible.
So.
Love you, Sean.
Don't do this to me, Eric. Don't do this to me. I don't like IPAs. That's my thing. Like a Sierra Nevada IPA is like, No, it's so hot. I don't like overly hoppy beers. I like ambers and darks and stouts. But this Hercules double IPA, just when it hits the lips, is just so. It's past hoppy. It's just its own thing. It's incredible. It's like a 14%. And it's so good.
God,
if we can find shit like that, I mean, we have a lot of good beer out here, like Acoustic Ales, awesome, San Diego.
Oh, so good.
What's the one out of Anaheim? Noble.
Yeah.
Fucking bomb. Stone in San Diego. We got a lot of beer, but if you guys have something you can recommend from wherever you may be, let us know. We'll freaking plug that shit.
Yeah. There's all types of stores around us. We can get this stuff. We have probably about 3 different topics we're going to have in the next couple weeks. So keep an eye out. And we're not sure what order we're going to do it. Because we're going to talk Ryzen again.
6.5% on this bad boy.
That's
For
not bad.
brown.
That's
It's
not
okay.
bad.
It's okay.
Because 7.2. That's not bad. Little bitch beer. So we're going to talk Ryzen once it's announced on the 2nd.
We'll catch
released.
up. We'll see which of our theories pan out as far as performance, price, overclocking, how everything, pans out.
Yeah, we'll keep track of what, like, Paul's Hardware and Linus Tech Tips and
Tom's
Jay's.
Hardware and Antec.
Yeah, when everybody kind of, like, we'll consolidate stuff and kind of talk about it and see what they find.
Follow that up on GDC with the 1080 Ti and the Vega 10.
Yeah, and I'll be posting about it on Facebook.
Yep, and once that Vega 10 drops, I'll pre-order that shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then I'll have benchmarks 100% on launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a written review for that with video review and pictures and benchmarks and everything.
So keep an eye out for video reviews. More coming. We have quite the backlog.
I'm sorry.
Stuck up in our editing department right now.
Editing department.
We're
This
making progress.
failure.
We're making great progress.
A little progress.
Yeah, we've got 4 or 5
Reviews.
right now in the queue.
Yeah.
Ready to post or getting ready to post.
We're close.
Yeah,
It's getting there.
getting close.
We're making it happen.
Yeah, we just need incentive. Awkward silence.
I did a very strong wink right there. Very strong. Right there. That was a stretch. Yeah.
So we're also going to do a head-to-head of headphones.
comparison. These and those and the model below those and an AKG pair and
2 AKG pairs.
2 AKG pairs.
And also some Bowers and Wilkins.
Bowers
Bowers and Wilkins P5s.
Where are these coming from, Eric?
I got a buddy.
You know a guy that knows a guy?
I know a guy.
B&W? That's interesting.
Exactly.
They're not typically a headphone company, I would say. Which
Bowers
make
and
it even
Wilkins?
more interesting.
Oh, I've had their in-ears. If you're looking for amazing in-ears, Bowers and Wilkins. They're whatever their in-ears
I used to have really high-end Shure in-ears that I had.
Yeah, I've looked at
They're
those
pretty
before.
awesome. Calypso, I had their in-ears too. That broke.
Yeah.
That was that solid Best Buy discount. Retail was like $97. I think I paid like $35. That markup though.
So we're going to be doing. That's going to be.
We'll make it happen, folks.
That's going to be a combination like review plus podcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to have like a whole table set up with a headphone amplifier. We're going to be going down the line, multiple
Head-to-heads,
people,
comparisons,
multiple songs, judging.
Hey,
It's
any
gonna be-
request for that track list for when we're comparing?
Oh yeah, send
Them our way. I mean, I think we got a pretty good base. I know I have my standards I use, which you'll see in my headphone review.
Yep.
But send us any like tracks that's like your demo track.
Yeah.
Like
If you want to send
we'll let you know how it compares.
If you make a comment on our Facebook page with either a Spotify playlist or like Google Play playlist,
Oh yeah.
or if you just write it out, if you want to take
Or if
that
you're-
much effort,
or if you're one of the few people that use like what's iTunes called?
what's iTunes?
What is their service? What is it called? Is it called anything or is it just iTunes?
iTunes, I guess.
iTunes.
Can you make a playlist and send it to anybody?
They have like streaming.
This is
There's
bad.
streaming stuff on
This is
iTunes,
bad.
right? Is there streaming stuff? There's streaming stuff on
like-
iTunes. But what's it called?
I don't
Just
fucking know.
iTunes.
iTunes Radio.
What about Tidal?
See, mine used
Actually, there is supposedly a new codec for streaming that just got agreements from Universal Movie Group. Universal Song Group, I guess, whatever the Universal Music division is. And apparently, Tidal will be using this new codec for streaming. That's supposed to sound incredible.
If you don't have anything other than Spotify or Google Play Music, just write out the list.
Get on your shit, too.
Because we have a couple key songs we're going to go through and base our review off of. Listen to East Pair. We'll go through that whole thing later on. But I'm pretty excited about that one. That's going to be a long day.
That's going to be fun.
It's going to be a long day.
It's going to be exciting.
We're also going to do Can Jam coming up in a couple months. May or June?
June. There's also LA Audio Show is I think in May.
Oh,
because the show
we're gonna have to bring the camera.
The show is pushed till September.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. The Newport Audio Show.
Yeah, the Newport Audio Show. So the LA Audio Show I think is in May or June. Yeah.
And that's the thing is like if we are happy to do local events.
100%.
But I'd love to go to the Rocky Mount Audio Show. I've heard this is just amazing.
Seed and Sound shows up, does fucking amazing showroom.
But we have, I can't pay for this.
I know. When is that? When does it happen?
It's towards the end of the year, like November.
I'm gonna be in Colorado in July.
Are you?
I will be.
Think about taking a trip to Colorado. I got to get some skis. I got a brand.
Gotta get that Wade too.
So.
God, you don't.
We keep getting distracted. It's been like another half an hour.
All right, thanks guys for checking us out. You know everything,
and then some.
Yeah, thanks for spending time with us, watching this video or listening via your podcast platform
of choice.
We're glad to hang out with you. We appreciate every one of you.
And if you guys have, if you guys want to see like our setup, like a walkthrough, we can do like a vlog style. Like walkthrough of like how we do stuff,
the podcast, how it works, camera, our interface,
editing,
mics, headphones, editing, lighting. Plus, we got our own setups that we can browse to.
Yeah, we got 3 gaming setups we can look at.
Yeah, we got gaming setups. We got my workstations, our builds, our wiring, our everything. So,
quick back tour because we got detoured off the detour.
Make it quick.
Another podcast that we're going to do is we're going to do a ZFS FreeNAS type theoretical thought process. Like what it is, how to build one, how to design one.
Because Eric's gone through that journey heavily. You've experienced that life.
I am tip of the iceberg.
And his experiences can benefit you.
Oh, God, yeah. If you have a Plex server and you're running off your desktop and you have a bunch of 6 terabyte devices that are not in RAID and you have a bunch of movies on it that you've copied off of your personal collection.
So if your name's Eric Johnson.
No, if your name is Sean DeVault and you need to start looking at
that is true.
A NAS device.
You know what? I'm just going to keep it going. I already said I'm currently on 6 terabyte blacks. I'm going to jump to 8 terabyte golds. I'm going to keep the storage going.
I will say I'm impressed. Right now, I've got this computer running 24/7, 8 drives. And
8 drives. I don't know.
I'm at like 90 watts.
Stupid. My CPU by itself is more than that.
I know. And that's exactly why I did this.
I'm on 6 drives, technically. I'm on 4 6 terabyte blacks and 2 solid states in RAID 0.
My UPS battery went bad. Keeps bugging me every 12 hours to replace it.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll let you leave and shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
We're going to go drink.
We love you.
Join us again as we dig deep into Nerds of the Round Table.